Hello, I hope you all are well today. With these INFJ videos, I am building as I go. It's how my mind works and how this is unfolding one layer at a time. I really would advise listening to what I have to say about INFJ and visibility before listening to what I have to say here. I believe if you do, what I say here will make more sense to you and ultimately be more useful in your life's journey. We are sometimes referred to as the protectors. It's one of our gifts in life, one of our strengths. I see myself in that description. Do you? If you think about it and reflect on your life so far, can you see situations in which you desired to protect others? Where you stepped in and went to bat for someone? Where you shielded someone from difficulties in life for their own good? Maybe because they weren't able to protect themselves? Do you feel a burden for the downtrodden in life? Maybe we can speak of that in more detail at some future point, but the reason I'm asking you this is so you can see the truth in what I'm about to say. Guess what, my dear protector? Sometimes the protector needs to be protected. You need protection, or if you prefer, someone who's got your back. This person can be a friend, a family member, a spouse or partner, someone who loves you and can see you. All of us need this, all human beings. What I am saying here does have general applications for all types. It goes beyond type, as all of us need to be protected and looked after in our most intimate relationships. However, what I'm doing here is to offer a perspective of the unique ways in which my type, the INFJ, needs this protection, as well as why we need it. So, my dear INFJ, why do you need to be protected? Because we have a problem with overextending ourselves. Because we have a hard time learning how to say no and setting appropriate boundaries. Because we can easily cross over into the unhealthy realm of people-pleasing. Because we are susceptible to being guilted by others. Because people outside of our inner circle won't recognize that we need a break. And why is that? Because they don't see you, remember? Because you are invisible. And when you're invisible, your needs aren't seen either. Don't expect them to be seen. But do realize that because you are not seen, meaning that your needs are not seen by default, you can easily be taken advantage of. Recognize that you are not perfect. Recognize that even though you can learn how to protect yourself, you can't do these things for yourself perfectly. To need some protection implies weakness, but we all have weaknesses. No one is a superhero. Recognize that you need someone else to help you see what you can't. They're called blind spots. I hear them mentioned all over the place. But what's the sense in acknowledging that we all have blind spots just to turn around and say that we have everything within to take care of ourselves? It's illogical. Someone has to shine the light on those blind spots because they're almost impossible for us to see. We were made for relationship, deep ones. It's the only way we can truly grow. This is why we need others, for growth. Not only do we need those who will shield us in a very tangible way, we also need others to teach us how to do it for ourselves. We need to build trust in ourselves. But we don't instinctively know this. If you had parents who saw this in you and helped you to set boundaries, you are fortunate. Or if you've experienced relationships with those who have given you guidance in this area, you are fortunate. When others help us set boundaries, it gives us the confidence to do it ourselves and to learn how to do it. But recognize that we will have weak moments and times of frailty, so having someone in your life who protects you is crucial and necessary. So you need protection. Sometimes you truly do need protection from others. Your intent to help is honorable, but you need help in seeing your limits. Allow protection from someone who can see you. Let me give you a few examples. I personally love examples when I'm listening to someone speak about these sorts of things. We all have the ability to read between the lines, but sometimes a point needs to be driven home with a little bit more emphasis. And that's why I share these personal examples with you. It also may allow you to see similar things in your own life as you reflect. So 2 people in my younger life who could see me. I have more examples, but I'm using these 2 because they came at a time when I was still impressionable, and they were powerful in my development as a person. So when I was in college, I had a piano professor who was very important in my development as a person. I was a music education major, and I was highly sought after as an accompanist in the music department. And this was because I was a very good accompanist. I still am. And so I had students coming to me, music majors as well as non-music majors, coming to me and asking me to accompany them for various recitals, these things that we call juries, which you offered, for a grade. This is how you were graded in a certain area. And so I had, all kinds of vocalists and instrumentalists coming to me and asking me to accompany. And I had a problem saying no to people. I started just saying yes automatically to everyone that asked me. Now, my piano professor wisely saw what I was doing in this, and what I was doing was actually harming myself, because at the college level, when you accompany someone, it's not such an easy task. You have to put a lot of work and practice time into those pieces. It's not a matter of just sitting down and sight reading. You have to really work hard. So what I was doing was I was harming myself because I was spending so much time on other people's accompaniments that it was taking away from my practice time as a piano major. And my piano professor saw that. So he sat me down one day and he said very firmly to me, from now on, if someone comes to you and asks you to accompany them, he said, I want you to tell them that they need to come speak to me. And I remember the relief at the time when he said that to me, because in my mind, I somehow instantly recognized that he was trying to protect me. Now, someone might criticize me for letting my teacher handle my burden in such a way. Someone might say, well, why couldn't you set your own boundaries? Well, simply because I wasn't able to at the time. In this case, it was a maturity issue, but there are many reasons why it can be difficult to set boundaries in life. This is why you need someone from the outside looking in to help you. My piano professor recognized things in my personality that I did not. That's going to be a typical struggle for us as we go through life, not really knowing ourselves and what we value. We need to trust someone else to know us, in some cases better than we know ourselves. My piano professor knew my intent, my heart was in the right place, and it was. I truly desired to help those other students, and I knew I could give them a good experience, which would lead to them receiving a good grade. But it was out of the realm of my physical capability to accompany everyone that asked, and my teacher knew that. And so he protected me in the way that he did. My second example has to do with my college boyfriend. But at the time that this particular event took place, he was not my boyfriend. We had a lot of, on and off again status in our relationship. So at the time, let's just call him a friend. So I was in the college choir, and every 5 years, the choir took an international trip over the summer. Well, my circumstances at that time in my life were such that my family was in pretty bad financial straits, and I was working 2 jobs at the time. I had very good scholarships, but I still had, some things I had to cover, some parts of tuition, books, living expenses, things like that. My parents weren't able to meet that at the time, honestly. So when it was brought up that we were going to be taking this international trip, I knew right away that I wasn't going to be able to go. It was thousands of dollars, and I didn't have that money, and I knew my parents didn't have that money either. So, because of honestly, because of the shame I felt at the time, now, this is just for you to understand the situation, but I went to a college that was a very well-to-do college, let's just say. There were a lot of students there who came from very privileged financial backgrounds. I was not one of them. So, there was some shame, I'll admit, that I didn't have what the other students had. And so when it came to deciding, whether or not I was going to go on this trip, I wasn't going to tell anyone why I couldn't go. I was just going to say that I wasn't going. And so I don't know if, we filled out a paper, I don't remember, but so obviously it was, I guess, communicated to my director that I wasn't going. Not the reason why, though, that I couldn't afford it. So my friend, knowing me, knowing my situation, because he did know very intimately what I was experiencing in my life, he took it upon himself to protect me in such a way that he went to the college choir director and he told him what he needed to know to understand why I couldn't go on the trip. And I didn't know he had done this. So one day I got a call from my college choir director, and he asked me to come to his office, and he sat me down, and he told me that my friend had come to speak with him. And he said that my friend had explained my situation, and my friend had told him that I deserved to go more than anyone else, and he offered to pay the full cost of my trip to go. And of course, I completely broke down in the office because no one had ever done such a thing for me in my entire life. Had offered, something so generously from their heart to me. And because of that noble gesture in which my friend tried to protect me, my college choir director revealed to me that there was money available to students like me, who couldn't afford to go. And because of that, my friend didn't have to pay, but I was able to go on the trip. But if it hadn't been for him, I never would have had those incredible experiences. It was one of the best things I ever did in my young life. And because of my friend, because of his need to protect me, because he saw me and he knew my circumstances, I had one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. So it's very humbling when someone does such a thing on our behalf, and steps up for us in such a way. So maybe after you listen to what I have to say here, you'll be able to reflect and find examples in your own life from when someone stepped in to protect you. And then ask yourself what you can learn from it. However, as beautiful as this all sounds, I can't let you go on thinking that we are some kind of innocent angels who only need to be sheltered from the storms without. Sometimes we need to be sheltered from the storms within. Sometimes we need someone to protect us from ourselves. Honestly, we are our own worst enemy at times, and the greatest damage will be self-inflicted. And if you think that sounds good or noble, I don't mean it to be. It can actually be a very unattractive thing to be your own worst enemy, because this is where we can be silently insufferable. I will gladly speak for myself here if it makes you more comfortable. I am willing to reveal some of my weaknesses in the hopes that it helps you to grow. I know my weaknesses simply because they've been pointed out to me. I have had a stubborn mindset that says I can do it all myself. I can shoulder all the blame, all the emotions, all the hurts of others. It really is a stubborn mindset that says no one else can do, fill in the blank, as good as I can do it. If you want to experience the kind of growth that really takes you on to the next level in your personal development, be open to a loved one telling you if they are protecting you from others or yourself. Accept their honest assessment, even though it may hurt. It's for your own good, even though it can be very painful to see it. In the examples I used from college, my piano professor and my friend, it was such a relief because the two of them could see me. I didn't need to tell them my struggles. They could see it because they could see me. And yes, this was a wonderful thing. But at the same time, be careful of your idealism here. In other words, don't expect all the loved ones in your life to be mind readers. Maybe they can see you, but you're doing a good acting job. I can think of some instances in my life where I took on things which became too much for me, but because I hid behind this superwoman veneer that said I could do it all myself, the loved ones in my life believed me when I said I could. So in some cases, you have to step forward with those you love and tell them when something is too much. You have to point it out to them. Don't be afraid to ask for help from someone you are in a relationship with, whether it's a friendship, a marriage, a work relationship, whatever it is. If this is a loved one, you have already decided to trust this person. But then, and remember this, you had better listen to that person and their advice. Once you've trusted them to protect you, then trust them with all your heart. This is what my piano teacher taught me, the very first person who ever gave me such a lesson. He had my trust from that moment on because he saw something in me no one else ever did, my need to be protected. This means that you trust your loved ones, not only in cases where you need protection from your outer world, but also in cases where you are making trouble for yourself. You need to trust your protector when they see the warning signs and let you know that you are approaching the danger zone. Listen to them and don't enter. Or, if you've already entered the danger zone and gotten yourself in over your head, you need to trust your protector to give you the right advice to get you out. Refusing to listen to and accept the advice of your protector not only hurts you, but it hurts them as well, because you are rejecting the help they want to give you. You are possibly rejecting a way that they are showing you they love you. This is what my college boyfriend taught me when he desired to use what he had in life to give me an experience I had never had before. Let me tell you, demands, expectations, necessary responsibilities, these are inevitable in life, because sometimes you can't do anything about the demands in life or your responsibilities. You have to ride them out, even when it's difficult. This is what it means to be an adult. But you need someone who will understand the support you will need when the demands are there. You need support during the heavy times, but most importantly when the heavy times are over. I am not a weak person. I have a very strong will, and I suspect many of you would say the same thing about yourself. We have the rock-solid strength inside to weather many difficult storms. We know we can get through them. But what I've found is that in cases when I know there is a termination point, I am confident I can make it through. Until it's over. Then I crash. Or there is no termination point that you can see, and you keep going until you crash. The latter is a perfect example why you need a protector, so you don't do this to yourself. A very interesting example of what I'm speaking of can be found in the book of Matthew in the Bible. I know it has been put forth that Jesus was an INFJ personality type. I'm not looking to engage in that discussion in this particular video, but I see a relatable example in this passage. Jesus had fasted for 40 days in preparation to being tested by Satan in what was possibly one of the most difficult and trying things to happen to him in all the time he was alive. In essence, he was confronting pure evil. Satan tempted him in all ways possible, eventually offering to Jesus all the kingdoms of the world if Jesus would worship him. Jesus rejected the evil and commanded Satan to leave him. But what did this experience take from him? How much did it require of him to go through such a thing? What happened after it was all over? Angels came and ministered to him and nurtured him. That could mean food after all those days of not eating. It could mean comfort. It could mean many things, but the fact remains, after such a difficult experience and in such a weakened physical state, he needed support. So in many cases in my life, it's not necessarily the actual time when I'm in the midst of all the demands that I need the most support, although I do need it. It's the times when I've had to shoulder something very heavy, and when I was finally able to let it go, that's when I crashed. That's when I needed to be nurtured and to be taken care of. Recognize that it's times like these when you will be the most fragile, standing on the brink of emotional breakdown. For me, it's like I have enough inside of me to get me through it, but after it's over, I'm completely depleted. So recognize your need for support and allow it. Again, trust your protector. And don't feel guilty about letting someone else take care of you. You know why? Because in allowing a loved one to nurture you, to be invited into your life to help you with your difficulties, you are allowing them to use their gifts, the gifts they are yearning to use to help you make your life better. So it becomes a beautiful mutual thing. You get the nurturing you desperately need, and someone else gets to grow as a person by using and sharpening their gifts and helping you. But be careful. Some words of caution here for you. When we find a protector, that's when we tend to get clingy. It's just sheer relief, like they're a lifeline, and you are actually holding on for dear life, your own life. I know what that feels like, but I would advise you to be careful in that. Don't cut off your lifeline. Recognize when you're getting overly emotional and take that time to spend time alone. Get perspective. Do not suffocate that loved one. You know how it's said that the very thing we despise in another exists in ourselves? Such is the case here. We are highly uncomfortable when people cling to us and won't allow us to breathe, but yet we tend to do the very same thing to loved ones in our closest relationships. Let that sink in a moment. So turn the mirror around and truthfully recognize when you are doing the very thing you say you despise. So, here are some practical tips for those of you who find yourself at a point in life where you have no protector. But even those with a protector may find some takeaways in these tips, as we all need to grow to the place where we are able to protect ourselves as best as we are able in our imperfections. So we discussed how you will have a very difficult time saying no. I have lived several decades and I still struggle with this one. I have actually taken to writing things on the calendar just so I have an excuse to say no. So if you've been really extroverting yourself, for instance, and you know you need a break, decide on a period of time when you can reasonably take that break. Or maybe you just want a day or two alone because you simply need it. So write me time in red letters on your calendar, and when someone calls or texts and asks you to do something on that day, tell them you have plans. If they press you, and I've had people that do this, and they want to know specifically what you are doing, resist the urge to tell or to lie. Just reiterate that you have plans. If you stand firm once, they probably will not ask the next time. The first time is always the hardest, but if you do it, it gets easier after that. I will admit I've lied in the past because people don't want to accept my answer, or they don't understand my need to be alone, and I want to make it easier on myself to say no. I'm not doing that anymore, or at least I'm trying not to. I'm still a work in progress. Here's another tip. Don't answer the phone. Voicemail is a great invention. My intuition usually tells me while the phone's ringing that someone wants something. And if I answer, my need to say yes and help that person will override that more important need inside to say no for my own self-preservation. Or maybe it's a situation where I can help, but I need time to weigh how and when I will give that help, which is why it's best not to answer. Either don't answer or practice saying, I will think about it and get back to you on that. Then give yourself some space to evaluate the situation. And here's one last tip. Give yourself an actual physical place where you are not reachable. It seems everyone expects us to be available 24/7. You do not need to obey that arbitrary rule, so give yourself space where no one can find you. For me, it's when I'm in the car. I drive a stick shift, and I don't have hands-free technology in my car, and I love it. I can't talk and shift gears, so I've taken to muting my phone, before I even get in the car. I can listen to music, Enjoy the breezes with the windows down. Check out the scenery as it passes by. Engage in interesting thoughts. Whatever. It's my time. Quiet and peaceful, or singing my heart out. No matter, it's my space where no one can interrupt. For you, maybe it can be a room in your house or apartment. Maybe it's during mealtime. Maybe it's during your evening walk or meditation time. Picking an actual physical space gives you control over how much access people have to you. Remember, setting boundaries in order to protect yourself is all about gaining control of your life. As you get older, it gets easier. You learn how to trust your intuition. You become more confident in saying no, and you become more confident in weighing when to say yes. These are all important things because from my point of view and experience, aging brings more desire for alone time, more time to introspect. So in my mind, everything progresses along in just the natural way that it should. I want to be a protector. I know you do too. But no matter how strong you are or perceive yourself to be smart enough to recognize that sometimes the protector needs protecting. Seek a protector. You need to be nurtured no matter how old you are and no matter how much confidence you have in yourself. I know I need to be protected, and I like myself enough to admit it. You should too.